Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me. I'm Zan from Zan Astrology, and I'm going to be speaking to you about this upcoming full moon taking place in the sign of Aquarius. And first of all, thank you so very much, everyone, for listening to this. And thank you so much, Nadiya, for this amazing opportunity. I'm so honored. But at the same time, this is not the easiest of energy. So I really hope that my guidance lives up to your standards and, of course, the standard that your listeners and viewers are used to. So this full moon takes place at the 19th of August 2024 at 27 degrees 15 minutes of the sign of Aquarius. So this means like a full moon, always in opposition of the sun and the moon. Moon illuminated the sun, sorry, illuminating the moon from the same degree of the sign of Leo. And of course, this is a bit special because it's almost like me uh, presenting this full moon prediction to Nadiya herself because she is an Aquarius native. Um, as I said earlier, this full moon is not the easiest energy. And the main reason for that is because the main aspect that it holds is exactly a square, better said, a T square. So both the moon from Aquarius and the sun from Leo are squaring the ruler of the full moon, Uranus. Uranus in the sign of Taurus. So Uranus, especially speaking in an aspect of tension, a square with the moon in its ruling sign of Aquarius, makes this energy all that much more Uranian, all that much more Aquarian, eruptive, explosive, surprising, rebellious. We don't really know what to expect, but there is a strong sense of, anticipation, excitedness, maybe even serendipity in the air. We just know that something is coming. It is like when certain insects, like ants and other insects, do sense the storm. Before, a few hours before a storm comes, certain types of insects act a certain way. And when we see that, we just know that a storm is only a few hours away. So, this is exactly how this energy is going to feel like. It definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, has a huge element of surprise in it. This can go either way because Aquarius is a dual sign, a fixed dual energy. So, it can come through as a delightful, unexpected surprise, but which still shocks us, or it can come through as more awkward or, the unexpected that we don't really like to see play out in our lives, but still it holds a truth. It speaks a very important message. Uranus is like the cold, hard sword of truth and objective reality descending down onto something. So, a kind of revelation. Full moon in itself always has an illuminating, revelatory quality to it. So, regardless of how this energy manifests in the you know proper way, it will still bear a certain kind of unexpected, chaotic surprise factor to it, which says something, which holds a truth, which um, stirs our awareness. Uranus is always associated with chaos, with accidents, with the unexpected, like a snowball down the hill, going out of control, growing. It is very, eruptive. But all of these elements are not due to maybe Uranus itself. You cannot really blame Uranus because Uranus simply raises awareness, the danger factors, or whatever created the, symbolic snowball or the accident or whatever, is revealed to us. Those elements were always there. Uranus just showed us what happens if certain conditions are met, and then, for example, like a chemical reaction takes place when certain conditions and timing, etc., are aligned, are synchronistic. And Uranus actually is the planet of synchronicity. So right off the bat, powerful synchronistic moments may be part of all of our lives, regardless of our sun signs, moon signs, our specifics, and especially collectively speaking. Now, another element which kind of points to surprise and something reaching our awareness, a mental energy, is that at the moment of the full moon, Mercury is conjunct the sun a day before. So a day before this full moon, around the 18th, something like that, Mercury was conjunct the sun, and Mercury is retrograde. Now, I must mention, and this is really important, that I am recording this horoscope at the end of June, 24th of June to be more specific. So this lunation is, and this video is probably going to be shared around the time of the full moon, so the 19th of August. So keep in mind that there is a gap between. So much can play out on the world stage and in our individual personal lives in that time frame. Why? Well, one of the reasons is that Neptune is at the 29th degree of Pisces, which also means that it's conjunct 0 degrees of Aries, is between these 2 degrees. That's the world stage. So something is inviting us to figure it out, to give it a meaning. Something is flooding us. Energetic Neptune, Saturn, Pluto, Mercury are all Chiron are all retrograde at the time of this full moon. So we are definitely, besides the new Uranus, the new, and Aquarius, the new, there is something also not so new from the past, or something that we really need to retake, figure, anything that has to do with the Mercury retrograde season, the re. And we must also keep in mind that Mercury retrograde began in Virgo, and now it is in its Leo stages, and it's conjunct the sun. So it's very much part of this full moon, the mental element, the mental sphere, and it combust basically because the sun heats it up. So our mental spheres are on fire, but it's not just an intellectual energy. Moon in Aquarius tends to intellectualize even emotions, even moon intuition, the spiritual, the psychological, etc., etc. However, Mercury in Leo is also about the intelligence and maybe the wisdom of the heart. Some answers in life and some truth can only be found in the heart, because maybe from a strictly intellectual perspective, it doesn't make all that much sense, but emotionally, especially in a Leo sense. So the fiery emotion, passion, creativity, what wants to be born, our uniqueness. Leo is the home of the sun, the light of our consciousness, that will what we project on the world. And the sun is at home at the time of this full moon, so very, very powerful. And Mercury next to it. And there is another small player, but I find her very important nevertheless. Vesta is also at 27 degree of the sign of Leo. Vesta is the asteroid, a protector of the household, of the home, of the family, goddess of the sacred flame. In her name, as in to invoke her power and keep it flowing like a permanent channel, there was a sacred flame burning in Rome and an order of Vestals, so virgins, virgin priestesses, who were also sorceresses, healers, oracles, etc., etc., had to guard and keep the flame burning and also pure to keep Vesta's permanent presence in Rome, to protect Rome. It was believed that if the fire, if the sacred flame would stop burning, would extinguish, something really, really, really bad would happen to the city and, collectively speaking. So Vesta is also conjunct the sun. She is also combust, but she is a fiery energy, sacred flame. So this immediately means that something is burning in our hearts. Uranus squaring Mercury, Sun, and Vesta, part of the T square. Uranus from the sign of Taurus, T square, squaring this. Well, something agitates us. There is a sense of urgency. There is an awakening. Something stirs up our emotions. There is a surprise moment. We are called to react to something. The heart comes, or our passion centers come with a certain type of reaction. Moon in the sign of Aquarius is the hyper intellect, the mind, the, you know, the higher self, so to speak, but the more rational, quantum rational, if you will, part of the higher self, how the higher self connects to the physical realm through us, of course. It is the highest octaves of our mental sphere, basically. So, ruled by Mercury, the lower mental sphere, his higher octave, Uranus. So, and because this is an opposition, a full moon, this automatically means that both the heart, Sun, Mercury, Vesta in Leo, and also the mind, especially the higher mind, is consulted. It is almost like something happens, something stirs up from somewhere, and we react to it. But before we react, and this would be the wise choice, this is the very first guidance that I can give for this full moon for everyone equally. Let's sit down with ourselves and put the heart and also the mind and also emotion to the table, and also our highest morality. Have a consultation and only react after if this is possible. It may not be possible all that much because there is so much else going on around the time of this full moon. Mars, which is the reaction principle usually, is in the sign of Gemini, kind of close to Jupiter, so expanded, and it holds a square with Saturn. Mars and Saturn squares are not very easy. Saturn in the sign of Pisces also retrograde. We are guided, and basically Pisces, the divine, and the collective unconscious, the collective unconscious, the collective morality, if you will, is asking us whatever it is that we say, do, choose, react to, that we hold a certain morality. We give importance to a certain morality, but at the same time, Mars and Jupiter conjunct in the sign of Gemini ask us to also take into consideration that the morality has to match the times we live in, and it has to make sense. It has to have a certain logic for the now, for the immediate. So you see, these two energies ask us to really consider our reactions, but these are also, where they can provoke us. Why? Because the ancients considered Mars as the lower, the smaller, lesser malefic, and Saturn the great malefic. And whenever these two planets play up, trouble, temptation, conflict, inner conflict, why not? Gemini, the mind, Pisces, our conscience, our morality, our highest principles, so to speak, our connection to spirit. For some people, our religious philosophies, for example. So, we need to create balance. between these two energies, inner psychological energy and down to earth rational energy, which may have an inner part because it is our mental sphere ultimately, but it can also very much have an external part, Gemini, the other, the collective, or an external element. But I would like to invite you to look at the screen. I will share my screen so you can look at uh, this full moon from an astrological perspective. Let me highlight the key elements here. So we have the moon here. We have Mercury and the sun opposing it. And Vesta is also there next to the sun. And this is Uranus at 27 degrees of the sign of Taurus. So we can see the T square. We can see the conversation of tension between these three planets. Saturn is at 17 degrees of the sign of Pisces. And Saturn is also important because it is the co-ruler. It is the ancient ruling planet of the sign of Aquarius. Uranus is the next, the new, the revolutionary. Uranus is the elevated thought of Aquarius. However, Saturn is the structure. Saturn is that which has to be permanent, that which always has to be there. Because if not, then everything just turns into chaos. Like a whirlwind, like a tornado sweeps everything away. That is Uranus ungrounded. So Saturn is very much needed. So Saturn himself is holding a square with Jupiter and Mars. The square with Jupiter is rather exact to the degree. The square with Mars is waning. But this is challenging. There is conflict in the air. Verbal conflict, conflict of ideas, conflict of religion, conflict of interest, conflict of philosophy, and, in itself, energetic Neptune and Pisces. And also, as I said, very close to that zero of Aries, zero of cardinals as the world stage. So what is true and what is not true? Chances are nothing is really true, or reality feels like nothing collective. Mars and Jupiter in Gemini, news, media, mainstream media, audio, visual, newspapers, anything that has to do with internet, social media, even mouth to mouth, sharing information word to word. All of that is on fire, Mars. Information is overflowing. Chances are one of the effects of this full moon is like an overflow of communication, information, news sharing. Aquarius is the collective. So something is viral, news or events are viral on a collective level, and that is stressing us out. That is tumultuous. Also, Aquarius is representatives of cultures, countries, a group of peoples, collective ideologies, philosophies, governing principles. So politics, the world of politics is on fire. Leo, sign of celebrities, royalty, kings, VIPs, those people, those energies, even groups of people, why not Aquarius, who are on the spotlight. Mercury, news reaches us, clarity reaches us. Vesta, the sacredness of the fire, there's passion there. So we are reacting to something that is communicated by exactly VIPs. Another element that points to leaders, heads of something, so the big people, is that Uranus, it's no longer conjunct to the degree, but it was very close to the full moon, conjunct fixed star Algol, a notorious fixed star, demonic and stuff like this. Is more like the myth about it. It is the head of Medusa, basically. Personally speaking, it can be a secret, guilt, shame, something that rules our being through shadow, through heavy emotion, like an addiction or something that is part of our everyday lives, and it's not so good. Collectively speaking, it is the ruler of something like a tyrant. Or Uranus, well, on one hand, is the disruption, the reverse of polarity. Uranus is the anti-Saturn, right? Where Saturn is longevity, keeping their ground stability for a very, very long time. Taurus, ultimately. Uranus shakes that up. Uranus is a time for change. So this can mean that a big leader of something, government, world leader, royalty, Leo energy, World Bank, whatever, any kind of group organization. But because of the Leo energy, chances are it's like more public, if that makes sense. So we know that person in an Aquarian way. Something that they do is out there. So something is disrupted there. At the same time, Uranus is the new, the next, the revolutionary, the freedom fighter. So a leader may rise. Now, this actually reminds me of a fixed star that the moon is conjunct with at the time of this full moon. So the full moon is actually conjunct that fixed star. And I'm trying to pronounce it because it's pretty, I hope that I do it justice. Gina, this is, I understand that this is how you pronounce it. Gyenah. And this fixed star is neutral. It is responsible for either reaching soaring heights, which is immediately so very in tune with an Aquarius full moon. Something technological is out there. It reaches our awareness, our collective awareness, and we react to it. It's a shock, it's a surprise. So without a doubt, something scientific, technology, internet, quantum computing, something about the mind, data research, quantum physics, and astrology even. Aquarius, very much related to astrology, hits the news, and we are shocked and surprised by it. Another element is aviation reaching soaring heights. Something very, very important and maybe shocking, maybe an accident. Because why? Full moon. The moon's pull on the tectonic plates is as, as strong as it gets in the month. And then the T-square with Uranus, calamity. Taurus is the earth, shaking of the earth, or earthquake, shaking of the earth, to be understood even symbolically, politically, financially, socially, even why not in nature, so calamity. So anyway, there is something that is hitting the news. Some aviation accident, for example, or a big upgrade in aviation, which is so new that we don't even know what to think of it. And another thing pointing to aviation is at the time of this full moon, Uranus, the ruler of the full moon, is conjunct. I'm not sure how to designate this. I do believe it's a trans-Neptunian object. Alicanto, which is a sacred bird. So something to do with aviation. Either that we see something that is a marvel of technology, that's very much symbolic to Alicanto, because the sacred bird was so beautiful that it kind of shocked everyone who gazed upon it. But it can also represent the fall, because the fixed star is also responsible to sudden fall. So something suddenly falls. So all of this might be the theme. Also aviation, travel, Gemini, Jupiter and Mars in it. Jupiter is the innovation, Mars action. Something hits again the news. But I must repeat, there is a time gap between, you know, my recording and when this is released. So many things can happen in this period. And I would also, you know, Uranus is in the sign of Taurus. So let us see what the ruler of Taurus, Venus, is doing. She is in Virgo. She is not able to bring forward her more romantic and gentle and spiritual qualities in the sign of Virgo, but she is very, very down to earth and practical. And Venus, at this time of this full moon, she opposes Saturn. So very, very down to earth. Something is being analyzed here. So this full moon has a rebellious quality to it. We are rebelling, collectively speaking, the people. This can be on a macro, like the whole international community, or on a micro level, your community, your country, a geographical area. So the people are rebelling against something. Why? Well, on one hand, exactly this Virgo Venus, something is not satisfying them. And Saturn in Pisces, because something is not shared equally. Then we also have to take a look back at Taurus, Venus's sign, Uranus in it. And Uranus represents a fight for values, fight for resources. So certain resources are not being shared. There is some kind of injustice and inequality here. So this provokes collective unrest. There is rebellion in the air. The other element pointing to rebellion is that dwarf planet Eris, and Eris is Mars's sister in mythology. She is very, very feisty, goddess of discord. Her myth goes that she was the only one not invited to a wedding in Olympus. She turned up anyway, and as a vengeance, she threw a gold apple into the crowd, saying, "This is a gift for the fairest." And that gesture, act in itself, caused a massive fight between all of the pantheon, all of the gods. Now, this symbolism is so important because this is how Eris acts. She could not attack the gods because basically she would go against every other god. She would be overpowered. She still found a way to overpower them. So Eris is always the freedom fighter who fights for principle, sovereignty, one's own authority over themselves. And basically Eris is symbol that no one should be left behind. Everyone matters. Every voice matters to be heard. Everyone has certain birthrights that needs to be respected. So Eris shrines, as Nadiya says, a conversation of supreme harmony, the sun and moon, the sun, Mercury, and Vesta in Leo. So she brings this rebellious quality. The truth of the heart is burning with passion and with great fervor. And if we want to complicate this a little bit more, this can very well be a grand trine because the sun is trining with Mercury and Vesta, of course, is trining the galactic center at 27 degrees of Sagittarius. The galactic center is like a fixed star, basically, but it is the black hole at the center of our galaxy, the symbol of the demiurge, the creational principle. That is the source of the dream that reality is, the source of love and wisdom, as Nadiya says. So there is a cosmic empowerment of the heart. The truth in the heart that burns is favored by the demiurge itself, basically. And if we want to complicate this energy a little bit more, then it's not just a T-square, it can be a grand cross. Because there is yet another trans-Neptunian object in the sign of Scorpio at 27, so somewhere around here in the sign of Scorpio, meaning it's a grand cross, a fixed grand cross, which is Ceto. Ceto, a goddess of the primordial goddess of the oceans and of the sea of water, very similar to Sedna, her in her symbolism. She is birthing sea monsters. Cetus is basically from her. So in the sign of Scorpio, what does it mean? Certain emotions can birth monsters. So this Grand Cross invites us to filter something through the lens of the heart and also the higher mind. So our greatest principles of our morality, Saturn also, with Saturn squaring Mars and Jupiter. Jupiter, what is justice and what is not? In the present of, in the context of the present, sorry, to make sure not to birth a symbolic monster. And Ceto is also the symbol of the great unconscious. So any choice or reaction or decision that we might make during this full moon, we must make sure to know our own shadow, our own unconscious. Another small energy is asteroid, not Black Moon Lilith, but asteroid Lilith at 20, let me just quickly check my notes. 8 degrees of Scorpio. So we can already see that this energy can be a sexual energy for some people. And it can also be publicly. A sexual scandal hits the news. How do we react to it? Maybe sexual secrets of a big leader, of a VIP, of someone important, Leo, ultimately. And Uranus is conjunct, and I'm so sorry to do this to you guys, yet another trans-Neptunian object, Lempo, which is god of sex and fertility, but also like, the incubus in many European mythologies, where it is like a sexual deity which tempts virgins and ladies at night. This in different countries all over Europe has different names, but usually, under one collective term, I think it's called the incubus. So you see the sexual temptation energy here. Either something, because this is a grand cross, so T square, something reaches the collective awareness or the news, and personally, someone comes out of the closet, someone shares a darker secret. How do we react to it? Aquarius is the symbol of our social connections, our friends, and people who we share principles, ideologies with, the water bearer. So this can be something that comes from our friends, our circle of friends, a news, a request, something, a reaction, an emotion. So, but Scorpio is also financial energy. So what is not shared? And if we necessarily want to, Pallas Athena, a very notorious asteroid at 24 degree of Scorpio, this can also be a square and an opposition. So she can also be part of this grand cross if we necessarily want to include her. So what is wise, what is tactical, and what is not? So regardless of how we look at this and how this plays out in our lives, as I said, this can just be a news reaching us or something collective that is like, oh, it's stressing us out. We are exasperated by the collective news or what is being shared with us, or this might be coming from our circle of friends, for example, but it kind of shocks us, it awakens us, it stirs an emotion, and it asks us to be aware of something, and many times that something is something that we have within us, a darker emotion, a frustration, an annoyance, or a psychological energy. Because, something that we may see, at a friend, and we may be a bit judgmental towards it, or it might evoke a not so pleasant feeling like fear or anger or disgust. Sometimes that same thing is also within us, just that we hide it. We keep it buried in the inner Pandora's box, but we very much also have it within us. So all of this is very, very important because, you know, even though Aquarius, as I said, is collective, but Aquarius is dual. It is about the collective, but very much also about the individual, because the primary component of the collective is the individual. That is the cell of it. You know, if the collective is a body, then the individual is the component cell of that body. So, of course, it matters. But because ultimately this is an Aquarian energy and so very, very Uranian, because the ruler of this energy actually holds a conversation of tension with both the moon and the sun. As Nadiya always says, expect the unexpected. We can't really foresee it. We can't really anticipate it. We can't really calculate how it's gonna play. It's gonna be a surprise. But what we can prepare ourselves for is how to react to it. And chances are Saturn retrograde in Pisces, we need to embrace all of our wisdom, and we need to, and also another interesting thing, it is not an exact aspect, but still, if we necessarily want to call it that way, the sun and Vesta hold a quincunx with Neptune and an outer sign quincunx with Mercury, so that's a yod. There is something fated that we need to understand. So regardless if this plays out collectively or in our individual lives, the divine asks us to reflect on the higher meaning of whatever happens. That's Neptune and Pisces, but also Pluto, almost at that 29 degree of Capricorn, but not yet, still at 0 of Aquarius, where the meeting of Saturn and Jupiter, the great conjunction, took place in 2020, 21st December 2020, the beginning of the new paradigm. This is when we understand it in a totally different way. The future is here. And what does it tell us? Chances are this full moon is a very important picture, almost like a photograph of whatever Pluto is going to do in the next 20 years in Aquarius. And this full moon also gives us a very powerful divine advice, because Leo is the sign of the youth, sign of children, sign of the young, of sometimes innocence, the inner child. And it is telling us that this element of youth and children in our timeline today basically are very much suffering, are in danger. They are disconnected from the heart. They are living in a hyper intellectual and hyper intellectualized reality in every way, shape, and form. So this is almost like a call out, a cry out from the divine forces, you know, the galactic center trining the sun, asking us that we really, really need to step up our game, both individually and collectively, with love. In the sense, we need to give love. We need to show love to the youth, to children, to each other, to that which sparks our passions. Love has to be our primary choice of creation, because, you know, whenever Pluto transits a sign, it's not just that sign, it's the opposite sign that is impacted. So Leo is the heart. We need to upgrade what love means to us as a collective, as humanity seen as a whole, because love, and this is what this full moon actually tells us, doesn't have to be romantic, doesn't necessarily have to be selfish, Leo, one of the darker sides of Leo, the selfishness. It can still be self-centered, but be Christ-like, because quincunx Neptune, the Christ consciousness, the divine is inviting us to consider love in its highest, most possible way in our own human detriment, where if we would be creators, if we would be parents to creation, to everything in it, to something very real, like, I don't know, animals, fellow people, objects, our home, nature, anything, or something not all that corporal, material, like a work of art, poetry, something Neptunian, if we give it love, but from the perspective of a divine parent, almost as we ourselves would be a divine parent, giving our shoulders, of course, only Aquarius, philosophically speaking, to the divine source as a responsible Saturn in Pisces, as a responsible in training parent, creator, then we open ourselves to a totally different dimension of love, one that can do miracles, great uh, miracles, because why? What opposes this? Pluto in the sign of Aquarius in the next 20 years. So Aquarius is the hyper intellect. It is the artificial intelligence, but in its unlimited, unbound form, that which we have no clue of yet. We don't know that yet. Imagine that tool serving love, serving the heart, serving the youth, serving even Neptune, the divine source's highest dream, dream of harmony, dream of serenity. This is where the divine is giving us the basically tool for miracles in humanity's hand. And this full moon actually highlights this in different ways, because Aquarius is multidimensional. It is not just black and white. It may seem black and the duality of it, the two waves. It may seem like that from the distance, but as you approach it, you see its multi-dimensionality. So, it's not just black and white. It is everything has a place in the future. Everything has a place, but if that is animated by the greatest of love, it can only be, divine. It can only be nurturing. Because Leo is also the sign of sensuality and happiness. So this brings us to the other expression of this energy. It can be very, very sensual for a lot of people, because Leo, sensuality, then remember Lilith in Scorpio, sexuality, Scorpio, and then Ceto, the unconscious, that which is in the closet, But I would advise you to take extra caution when reacting to sensual provocations and temptations, because this Uranus, it can go either way. And Moon in Aquarius, it will not stay a secret for long, or it won't stay a secret at all. It will be immediately revealed. So if you're in a stable partnership, be careful. There might be a bit of temptation in the air. But of course, this can also play out in the most positive way, where something that you didn't even dare to dream of just knocks at your door and it shocks you. What do you do? It can very well turn into all opportunities. And we will see this in the second part of this horoscope, when I speak about how this may potentially play out in the lives of the 12 signs separately. So for certain signs, it's going to be a wonderful opportunity. Maybe that one that feels too big for them, but that's really a good thing. So in this last part, I'm gonna invite everyone to listen to how this energy may play out in the lives of the 12 signs. So beginning with Aries, and I really hope that you can see my screen. This would be the chart for Aries for this full moon. So for the natives born under the sign of Aries, this lunation takes place in the 11th house. So friends, social connections, groups of people who you share the same ideologies, principles with, your own hopes and dreams, plans, long-term plans for retirement. But Uranus is in the second house, Sun in the fifth. So this might be a decision to take a risk or not to take a risk, to play it safe in something or to dare and go an extra mile. Uranus provokes from the second house money or a value or an investment or a talent. Do I dare to show what I can do, or I rather, or it's not time yet? This can also be where someone asks for a loan. Do I give that loan? Do I help them out or not really? This can also be where the shock, the surprise comes from a friend. And why not? This can also be romantic. It may not go the right way because you have a long-term friend and all of a sudden, well, look, I have romantic feelings for you. And you think to yourself, after 20 years, now you tell me. So you see the Uranus factor here. It can play out in so very many ways, but it will shock you and it will be either a dream of yours, a goal of yours, a principle of yours. It will affect that, or something that has to do with friends or social connections, even your social position. It might have to do with something financial as well. So moving on, is to the natives born under the sign of Taurus. So for Taurus natives, this lunation takes place in the 10th house. So this is where it's soul calling. It might be career related. But Uranus is in the first house. So the ruler of the full moon is in the first house. So this represents that the surprise factor comes from the self, from the head, in that sense. A sudden direction, a sudden choice, a sudden something that awakens an epiphany, a eureka moment, a sudden realization, something that just awakens within you. Why not? And that might change, your immediate plans, even things that you planned in your career. And also the fourth house, that's your roots, but your home. Redecoration might be something that may come not just as your own desire, but maybe also as a necessity. Something breaks down, or there is a big event taking place in your local community, which encourages people who want to renovate or redecorate. So this can play out in so very many ways. But remember, the surprise factor is personal. It's you guys. You are the surprise factor. So this might be an upgrade in career. It can even be an upgrade in that either your family favors, local community favors, or this can either come as a challenge, but the challenge actually favors you doing things you needed to. Remember Mercury retrograde. You had a list of chores that you needed to do for yourself personally, even if it wasn't necessarily your being, but your house is personal, your living conditions are personal, your big career moments, or your small career moments, investing in equipment for your career, a decision. It's still you, and it's still basically very much related to what you will project onto anyone. So maybe a need will be forced to be met. So utility and need handshaking, but Taurus natives will still probably have a mini rage about it, as I know them, because inconvenience is fixed energy. If we even want to include Ceto and Black Moon Lilith, so Scorpio, that would involve the seventh house. So you can imagine the partner and the inconveniences and contracts. When a Taurus native changes a contract that was running for tens of years, this is the moment. But it's still inconvenient and stressful. So moving on, natives born under the sign of Gemini. Well, for you guys, the lunation is in the ninth house. Uranus 12th house, and the sun illuminates all of this from the third house. Now, this can have a lot to do with traveling. It can even be a long distance travel. It can even have to do with something, relations of any kind with abroad. For some Gemini natives, maybe this is an invitation to study abroad, or it doesn't need to be abroad. It can be higher education, the ninth house. It can be a new curiosity where you have to decide, am I really gonna make this like an official study? Am I really gonna enroll to this? Or am I gonna refine my existing specialization? So this can be also something that has to do with legal stuff. Not, I wouldn't necessarily perceive this as like a court trial, but anything that has to do with official documents. The time may come for something, but unexpectedly. Uranus in the 12th house means it's also something karmic. This is also something what you reveal, something that has been brewing within you, unconscious 12th house, or your dream, or your desire, or your fantasy, and all of a sudden time has come for you to live it one way or another. And also Mercury retrograde in third house, you are rethinking, reanalyzing something. So I would look at this as you speculating how to best embrace an opportunity, learn something new, or give a brand new but revolutionary use to your existing skills or degrees or higher education. So moving on to the natives born under the sign of Cancer, this is 8th house lunation. So this can be a heavy psychological energy, I'm not gonna lie, because 8th house is where the heaviness lies. The moon is not very comfortable in the 8th house. That is the heavy, the digging deep psychoanalysis, the truths that we need to admit to ourselves that are very, very hard to look at. But this can also represent where something stirs a rather uncomfortable feeling. Jealousy, Uranus in the 11th house. That means friends or society, social, the internet, the collective. Either you're not up to date with something and that makes you feel like you're missing out or that you're not very valuable. Or this can be a financial energy. I need something to be up to date with a trend, but this is where it might not be all that much optional. because Sun and Mercury retrograde in second house. So you need to cough up. You need to give the money, you need to invest, you need to sacrifice, maybe repairing something, repairing your car, repairing, some health, eighth house, physical health. You had this problem for so long. The reason why you didn't go to the doctor was because you knew it was going to cost a lot, and it wasn't a crucial, like a life-threatening something. And now, somehow, in some circumstances, time for you to actually go. Saturn, the co-ruler of Aquarius, remember, retrograde in Pisces, time to do this. So it can be that also. And it can also be a release, a psychological release, the release of a secret or something that has been weighing down upon you. You reacting to something like that, a secret, because this is deep emotion, or a sexual energy, why not eighth house? But it can also be a sexual blockage. So it doesn't, nothing says, and actually, I have to repeat, Uranus, it can go any way, shape. Uranus is the hazard, Uranus is throwing the dice, the chaos of it. It can be wonderful, it can be not so, but it always says something, especially eighth house. Moon in eighth house says something deeply psychological or but even the financial element of the eighth house, it says something about the inner world and the instinct, the primal, the inner animal. All of these are going to be included. So something will really, really stir you up. And of course, if we include Black Moon, Lilith, and Sito, anger you, fifth house. So moving on, natives born under the sign of Leo. Well, for Leo natives, this is seventh house lunation. So it means that either it is a choice, either it is something legal, either it is a delicate choice or decision, but Mercury retrograde, right? Remember? Or having to go back on a choice that you took recently, changing your mind. But it can also be something that actually impacts you through the life of a partner, romantic partner, husband, wife, any kind of partner, contractual partner. And in Hellenistic astrology, if I'm not mistaken, seventh house is also the house of your open, declared, known enemies. So basically, seventh house is anyone who we have any kind of link to. So, as I said, the seventh house means that it can come from someone else or something else, a firm. Your workplace is also, contractually speaking, seventh house. But seventh house is also justice, courts of justice, where we make agreements official. But Mercury retrograde, Sun in first house, of course, Leonate, Vesta. So this is where it's personal, your personal image. So what you choose, what you decide upon, matters a lot. And Uranus in 10th house. So your soul path or / career or 10th house, how you want to be seen by the collective as a professional or as whatever. 10th house is the world, the mark you leave on the world. I think I explained this well enough. So this is something quite personal here. You are going to be figuring out yourself how you react to something, what you think about something is the important element there, not what others think. It's self-oriented, first house, and also Sun at home, Mercury conjunct Vesta. And keep in mind that both Sun and Mercury and that Vesta are conjunct a few fixed stars at the 27th degree of Leo. So you're gonna feeling this quite strongly. Moving on, for the natives born under the sign of Virgo, well, this is where a sixth house lunation. Virgo in the house of Virgo. So this can be quite a busy, but I'm so sorry to say this in a disruptive way, period for you guys, because it can be work related. Uranus is in the ninth house, travels, documents, but the legal stuff, courts of justice, a fixed date, or when an authority who is the not seen from a Capricornian sense, but rather Sagittarian sense, they make their law or the decision, or they are the arbitrary force. This time, this date, and it's surprise, surprise. Nothing you can do but adapt your whole daily routine to it. So this can be a very busy couple of days for Virgo. This can also be feeling a bit under the weather, anxiety. The Schumann resonance can be felt very strongly at this moment, or digestive problems, or a bit of a health problem, or a bit of a detox, because the Sun, Mercury in 12th house, that's blood chemistry. That's where doctors visit many times, or needing to take a break or a devitalization. But this can also represent a surprise travel, official travel, or if you're on holiday at this time, this might be a moment of disruption, weather. Let's say you go to an exotic place, a hurricane, a storm. So if you're on holiday around this time, take extra health and safety cautions, because Uranus in ninth house. If you're in a foreign country, culture, especially where it was pre-planned, Mercury retrograde, your daily routines, like what you had planned in that holiday, might go totally differently. And also, sixth house, physical house. If you can avoid programming certain surgeries, especially cosmetic or hair or big makeover, if you can, try planning for a different day, because it may go differently than you expect. And this also goes for Leo natives, actually, because first house is how you look like. So don't make big moves under this full moon. But at the same time, this can be shocking news coming from somewhere, work, busy workload, or some kind of karmic energy, 12th house, or artistic energy. Let me give you an example. You're devitalized. So you have a moment of flu or breakdown, or you need a rest, but your artistic talent sparks up and it still becomes a wonderful time. Why not? So moving on, for natives born under the sign of Libra, well, for you guys, this is quite a sensual energy, because it's in the fifth house. Heart space, inner child, creativity, sensuality, romance. But something shocks you from the eighth house. So eighth house is, again, sexual energies, sexual organs. So this might be a very strong, irresistible attraction. Mercury and Sun in 11th house. An ex makes a comeback, sensually speaking. What does that mean? Will it take your relationship further, or, you know what I mean, it shocks you? Or is this a friend who changes their love for you to another type of love? Or a bromance, situationship, Aquarius. Why Aquarius? Because Mercury retrograde and the Sun are illuminating this full moon in the fifth house from the house of Aquarius, 11th house for Libra natives. So this is gonna be a bit weird. Again, moon in fifth house. How do I even feel? And Uranus in eighth house. Well, I have to somehow decide what I feel. What do I feel about this? Do I love this? How do I love this? Where does it, what does this mean for my future and that person or that situation? Because fifth house, creativity, passions of any kind, hobby. Libra natives who are parents. Uh, something comes from a child. The child comes home with a once in a lifetime opportunity, but it will take you and your partner, let's say, every strength in your being to make that possible. Happy, but good news, what an honor, but. So the child might come with some kind of surprise, or maybe, well, Venus in the 12th house. 12th house is blood chemistry, hormones, secrets, but the kind of secrets where we just simply are not aware of that. It's even a secret from the self. Pregnancy, but, and it can also represent a massive opportunity. Where do I take the risk or not? Because fifth house is risk, 11th house illuminating, Sun Mercury is security. Is it worth the risk or not? Or fifth house is love, ultimately. 11th house, lovability. How lovable is someone making you feel? How lovable are you making someone else? So this energy can be a bit complicated. So let us move on to natives born under the sign of Scorpio. Well, the lunation happens in fourth house, so this is where it's the roots. It can be something coming from family or family reacting to something coming from you. More specifically, something that you do career-wise, or something that your career, or something that is very important for you. It's not necessarily a lucrative energy. It is just important for you. And it's part of your life. A decision of yours due to that, how the family reacts to that. Partner, children, or parents, how local community, if this is applicable to you. But at the same time, this is where some challenges may come from the partner and your partner's family. So it's maybe where how are you reacting to whatever it is that you need to be part of in your partner's life. A shoulder to cry on, a shoulder to help carry the weight, even karmic burden, why not? Something that ultimately you need to decide with your partner. Let me give you an example, because this is fourth house. Out of a sudden, uh, the house is on sale and you have 2 months to find another rent. There's nothing you can do about it unless accept, sorry, the legal battle and hassle. But you can imagine how, surprise, surprise, it may lead to you to something wonderful, but still the shock of the moment. Even if you were planning this, oh, I so want to move already, but both you and your partner were too busy, tired, lazy, whatever to, and now this happens, and you say, even if you say, well, okay, it was about time, we wanted to do this anyway, it's still a bit of anger there, you know? And of course, it changes 10th house as well, because different setup, different modus operandi. But as I say, this can also be an opportunity, career related opportunity, which needs you to change around things you do with your partner and family. So you can imagine if the partner is not delighted about that, there is going to be discussions. Moving on to natives born under the sign of Sagittarius. This is a third house lunation, so it's all about the mind. This can very well be that type of lunation where you catch yourself on the mental chatter that the way you speak to yourself, but in an unaware way. Let me give you an example. What is your first thought when you get up in the morning and you look in the mirror? The first that you might not even be consciously aware of that dialogue. However, that may be so determining of your day, of your perceptions, and your everyday, and on a large scale of how we experience reality. So you catch your own thoughts, your mindset, your mental speculations may be sabotaging you, and you set it right. But this energy can also represent something much deeper, where you introduce a new way of thinking, a new way of perceiving something, a new way of understanding or working with something, but not out of no reason, because something is revealed. And this revelation can actually be learning in the realest sense possible, because Sun, Mercury in the ninth house. Either you relearn something, or you go to a course, or you know how to do something already, but you take it to another level. Something is being revealed ultimately. So this can be like proper actual learning, but you're in a sixth house. Either it's hard, routine wise, time wise, how you have the resources for it, why not? It might not be free. Is it worth the investment or not? But ultimately, you have to figure something out. This lunation helps you to adapt to something, or to figure something out. Find the right modus operandi, or travel plans, or the person who to do something with, like a project, like a financial speculation, or actual brother, sister, siblings, cousins, neighbors. Everything can come from that, but it is very communicative. It is based on communication, sharing of information, or brainstorming or learning. Moving on, natives born under the sign of Capricorn, for you guys, it is a second, I'm sorry, house lunation. So, where the money's at, it's very, very financially, how should I say, palpable. This can actually be quite a positively surprising energy, because this second house lunation can simply represent you become aware, I have something in my life, or I own something, I can do something, a talent, or my physical image, I look good. Of course, we're joking here. but that can very well be part of some people. That's their value. You something reveals to you in a totally different color than you usually perceive it, where a value in your life lies, regardless if that value is material, psychological, Venusian, like beauty, as doesn't really matter. And then, well, how do I make it part of my life? How do I work with it? How do I um how do you I'm so sorry because I'm just looking at the right term here. How do you convert it into resources, basically? How do you use it in a practical way to generate you something? How do you manifest it into real money? Because second, eighth house axis, financial speculations, investment. How do you turn a talent or something that you have into money? Or it can be taking a loan, taking a credit from a financial institution, or asking for financial help in what to do with an inheritance, what to do with money that you, or not even money, any kind of value that you potentially own, let's say. So this is quite a brainstorming energy in that sense, but Uranus in the fifth house, this is where it's a risk. Maybe the bad part is that no matter what you do, it will still be a risk, or you have to put your pride aside, or something is there because Sun in eighth house, a fear, a inner shadow, or a bit of jealousy, or some heavy feelings that semi feeling that you're very aware of, or Mercury in eighth house, investigation. You might have the plan, but it is very much meticulous. Mercury in the eighth house, because you need to apply to this bank, this institution council. So it might be very, very complicated. So you need to think, how am I going to, what is the best way? Or, as I said, it can be just a talent that you always, Uranus in fifth house, used to perform as on a purely amateur basis. How many purely talented, wonderful, brilliant astrologers or any kind of healers who are who don't even know about themselves how good they are exist out there in the world. And I'm not saying that they're not working, because they are working, but they have no idea how truly valuable their energy is, and don't understand this in a materialistic way, but rather value in a Piscean way, in that sense, how much good they can do. So this might be very much the case for Capricorn natives, but this can also be eighth house, something that was they inherited from their great grandparents, something, and it's an antique piece, and its price will shock them. But that also means decisions, 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 or finding value in something, or this a job offer. Sometimes eighth house is the financial reward temptation part of a job. Agreement, speculation. Is it too big for you? Can you handle it? Do you have what it takes? Moon in second house will answer that at the time of this full moon. Moving on to the sign of Aquarius by personal first house lunation. So I would say that what is life gonna reflect back at you about yourself at this moment? Partner, if you are in a relationship, chances are that partner will reflect something very, very important. because Sun, Mercury, and Vesta conjunct in the seventh house. And so this is where the light of the partner reflects something at you. And that might be surprising, shocking, or a bit too much, because Mars and Jupiter are conjunct in that fifth house. A bit too much sometimes, too much love, too much passion, too much. But Uranus is in the fourth house. So this is where the timing of this is not coincidental, because you need to shake up your life. Because fourth house is the roots or family. But this can also represent the challenge or this big surprise factor or the truth comes from the family, and it impacts both you and your partner together. But this can replace partner with any contract, any decision, choice, one-on-one alliance. And because the Sun and Mercury retrograde are there, either you're trying to figure out something or a legal deal or some court of justice, or you need to settle something officially before you can use it. What does that mean about you? What does that say about you? Or family roots, a relocation. And it can be their relocation, but that means your partner's life is also going to be affected. Or the partner reveals something, communicates something, a secret. Or, as I said, something happens actually in the life of your partner, and that automatically will drag you along, but as image-wise, what you feel towards yourself ultimately. And even though it can go either way, chances are it's going to be intense, both because of this Uranus, but also because of this Mars in the fifth house. And let's not forget Mercury squaring his higher octave, so communication, shocking news. And finally, last but of course not least, natives born under the sign of Pisces. Well, for you guys, maybe you guys are gonna be the better recipients of this energy, in the sense that, well, this can be a few days where either reality feels like you're in a permanent high, like you walked into an alternative reality, escapism of any kind, even the inoffensive, immersing into, like, let me give an example. Jupiter and Gemini, a computer game. A big immersion, well, you won't even know who you are. That's how you immersed you're going to be. But this can also represent any kind of altered state of consciousness, something that ultimately is dished out by your soul to your conscious mind. This can also be a slightly medical energy where you might need to do something, like change a daily routine around for the sake of healing, regeneration, better quality of life, or a release, or a few days of detox. Why not? Because Uranus is squaring this from the third house. So mental energy as well. You must understand something, or the mind is a promoter of something, the idea, the epiphany. But this can be very, very mystical as well, because this an artistic, as I said, a dream, mysticism, fantasy, secret, gaming, but not only in a modern sense, as in computers and consoles, playing a game in any way, shape, and form, but which breaks you away from reality. But this can also play out where something is agitating you, either sleeplessness, restlessness, a moment of high tension, high feelings or melancholy or tearfulness for no apparent real reason at all, well, this is the full moon effect in the 12th house. The Schumann resonance and Pisces, a Pisces native is always a bit open to the collective empathy, if that makes sense. And this can also be very important communication wise, where a karmic news either is spoken out by you or you hear words that are karmic or come from the past, and they help you find forgiveness or make an important step psychologically. So I think this kind of concludes my guidance for this full moon in the sign of Aquarius. Thank you so very much, everyone, for your patience and for listening to me. And thank you so very much, Nadiya, for inviting me. It is the greatest honor and pleasure and joy. And with this being said, I wish everyone a blessed and magical full moon. Please remember that love is the superpower which can help us to give a higher meaning to any chaos, any disruption, any rebellious energy, emotion, feeling, thought, or action, reaction that this full lunation might trigger. So let us be our most loving and in a heart level, most wisest and mature self. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Nadiya. And until next time, bye for now.